Please join us 1 week from tonight for the next episode of Anne of Green Gables. Also, mark your calendar for the evening of Saturday, March the 5th. That's when KTEH hosts the Bay Area premiere of Anne of Green Gables, the sequel. Anne has blossomed into a young lady by this time as her story continues. That's Saturday, March the 5th at 7 o'clock on Channel 54.
On the next WonderWorks, Anne finds a friend, enters a three-legged race, and goes to school.
Carrots! How dare you!
Part 2 of Anne of Green Gables on the next WonderWorks.
Channel 54 gratefully acknowledges the support generously provided by members of the Production Fund who have helped make possible the outstanding programs produced and broadcast by KTEH. Production Fund members include Amdahl Corporation, Advanced Video Systems, Unisys, and the Rotary Clubs of District 517.
In Hawaii, there are more than 6,000 species of plants, animals, and insects found only in the Hawaiian Islands. Celebrate the It was the movie that transformed the Queen of the Silver Screen into a real-life princess, Grace Kelley, in her final film, The Swan. Then discover why she gave up the stardom of Hollywood for the throne of Monaco on Grace Kelley, an American Princess. An outstanding day's entertainment. Watch Sunday, March the 20th. And coming up next, we present episode number 2 of Anne of Green Gables on WonderWorks. Quality viewing for the entire family, made possible by your pledge of support.
Last time on WonderWorks, Anne Shirley, an orphan, was taken in by Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, who expected a boy.
It's a girl.
I can see that. Where's the boy?
There weren't any. Just her.
Accepted for a trial period, Anne is on her best behavior. Until...
Awful heart. Her hair's as red as carrots.
Carrots! You're a rude, impolite, unfeeling woman, and I hate you!
Aunt Shirley.
How would you like to have nasty things said about you? How would you like to be told that you're fat and ugly and a sour old gossip?
I am wicked and ungrateful, and I deserve to be cast out forever. What you said was true. I am skinny and ugly, and my hair is red. What I said about you was true, too, only I shouldn't have said it.
In Part 2, Anne is allowed to go to a picnic, where she finds a friend, and enters into a race for boys. She meets Gilbert Blythe, who has a reputation for teasing the girls.
Carrots! How dare you!
Megan follows, Colin Dewhurst, and Richard Farnsworth in Part 2 of Anne of Green Gables on WonderWorks.
WonderWorks is made possible by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with additional funding from this station and other public television stations, and the National Endowment for the Arts.
Here's a very important reminder that next week we present the final 2 episodes of Anne of Green Gables, and this WonderWorks double feature will get started an hour earlier than usual at 7 o'clock. That's 7 o'clock next Saturday night for the final 2 episodes of Anne of Green Gables. Then 2 weeks from tonight, the story will continue with part 1 of Anne of Green Gables, the sequel.
On the next WonderWorks, Anne forgets to cover the plum pudding. Saves the life of a sick child. And attends her first formal ball. Part 3 of Anne of Green Gables on the next WonderWorks.
WonderWorks was made possible by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with additional funding from this station and other public television stations, and the National Endowment for the Arts.
Now a look behind the scenes at the making of Anne of Green Gables, where we meet Megan Follows, the young star who brings the character of Anne Shirley to life.
When I really realized how much I wanted to do Anne of Green Gables, I started writing down on paper all these declarations. I put down, I am Anne of Green Gables, and I wrote all of these cards down, and I stuck them all over the house, on the mirrors and on the refrigerator. And I remember people were concerned that I wouldn't be able I wouldn't be young enough. So I was writing, I am 12 years old. I had that all over the wall, and I am an actress who gives 100% of herself in auditions. I stuck all these things. And before I left, I read them all, and then I got on the plane to come back. And I was determined to get this part. At first, it was the young stuff that I was much more worried about, because it's the things I'd have to remember about what I was like when I was 12. Thank you with all my heart. You don't want me because I'm not a boy?
And a sour old gossip!
You don't want me to go, do you? Please forgive me. The best I can do is confessing. All of a sudden, I just felt younger. It was just a whole attitude, just a whole change. As I got older and the corset came on, you have to hold yourself differently. You're sucking in here, and all of a sudden, you're more aware of the fact that you look like an adult. I wasn't meaning to be funny. Well, all right. It isn't authentic. Never expected to be you. But I prefer to make people cry. Plenty of reasons why I won't go. Shame. I'd rather just be miserable. I guess where I think I'm closest to Anne is in the importance she sees in other people, and how much of her life is about being with people and sharing with them and making them a part of her life and touching them in special ways by just being herself and having confidence in herself.
I can't think of anybody in the world that could have played this part any better after I met her, you know, and she's Anne Shirley.
Everyone was overcome by my regal entrance. Thank you.
Regal my eyes.
From the beginning, working with Megan for me was a joy. She was always right there for you in that character, which makes it very easy for you to. I finally have a very loving feeling for Megan, which makes it easy feeling that she is a kindred spirit.
I found that as I worked with Megan, she blossomed and grew. Once she found the hook to the character, she went away with it. Off she was gone. She didn't need any direction at all. She was just the character. And it was a marvelous experience working with someone like that.
You really don't want me to go, do you? I'd do anything for you, Matthew, if you really wanted me to.
Of course I do.
We can't let Mrs. Lynn be the cause of our parting. I don't have to be really sorry. I just have to remove the disgrace I brought upon Marilla's good name.
Don't tell Marilla that I said anything. She'll say I'm interfering.
Wild horses couldn't drag it from me.
Funding credits on the start of their programs? Yeah, the corporations really take care of KTEH.
Sorry, but that's not quite right. Here are the facts. Corporate support makes up less than 15% of KTEH's budget. By comparison, KTEH depends on its viewers for more than 70% of its funding. And here's another fact. If you watch and enjoy the programs on Channel 54, then you should become a member of Channel 54. Send your contribution to KTEH membership, P.O. Box 1030, San Jose 95108.
Last time on WonderWorks, Anne was blamed for Diana's condition.
She's drunk.
Anne,
The girls were forbidden to see each other,
ever be friends?
although they meet secretly and vow eternal friendship.
Wilt thou give me a lock of thy jet black dresses? But I don't have any black dresses. Your hair, all right.
Anne's only consolation is school, where she meets her new teacher, Miss Stacy.
I want to look back on this class as being the brightest, the most imaginative, the most committed students on Prince Edward Island.
This time, Anne forgets to cover the plum pudding, saves a sick child, and attends her first formal ball. Part 3 of Anne of Green Gables on WonderWorks.
WonderWorks is made possible by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with additional funding from this station and other public television stations, and the National Endowment for the Arts.
On the next WonderWorks, Anne has stage fright at her first recital.
I go up on that stage. Can't. I'll be merciless if I fail. I've never failed at anything, Anne Shirley.
Goes away to school.
I'm afraid for her, Matthew. She'll be gone so long. She'll get terrible lonesome.
You mean we'll get terrible lonesome?
I can't help wishing that she'd stayed a little girl.
And receives some startling news from Marilla.
What did Mr. Sadler want?
He once offered to buy Green Gables, and he's still interested.
Buy Green Gables? Marilla.
The conclusion of Anne of Green Gables on the next WonderWorks.
WonderWorks was made possible by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with additional funding from this station and other public television stations, and the National Endowment for the Arts.
Now a look behind the scenes at the making of Anne of Green Gables.
From the moment I became interested in the book and seriously doing it as a film, I knew that somehow we would do it. this is a story that doesn't need $10 million to see it done properly.
I need a teacher, and I'm sure they'll be glad to have you.
Oftentimes when things are tight and you don't have too much flexibility, you focus in on exactly what it is you need, and you go for the best.
But if we did keep her, I'd expect you not to interfere with my methods. An old maid like me may not know much about raising a child, but I know a darn sight more than an old bachelor like you. Oh, she could talk the hind leg off a mule. That's certain. Oh, wouldn't that be a change around here?
Anne of Green Gables was very tough only because we had locations that were out of town, from mud sequences to ball sequences in the same day. People flying in and out of town. An AD's nightmare, but it's what makes life interesting.
A wonderful feeling of all these people working for one thing. It's such a wonderful story that everyone kind of connects with. And it's such a classic that everyone really wants to make it good.
But a lot of the look that was sort of in my head was from the country, because they were country people and I was brought up in the country. It's a lot of fantasy as well as, it's a mix of fantasy and reality, I tell you. It's, some of it is on period and other stuff is like a little off to the side, but it looks cute, so you do it, you know.
Because of the period, I wanted to keep a very natural look. In other words, instead of shading for someone who wants to look a little older, we wanted to have the color as a child would have it, which gives you your sort of apple cheek look. Plus hair, which was wonderful on this film, plus a wonderful cameraman and wonderful lighting. All these things together, costuming, I'm sure, also added to that difference in her age. I mean, it's quite remarkable. And then what Megan does is amazing. I really believe that little girl.
Overwhelmed.
It's an extremely difficult period to do with a low budget. It's a very busy, very cluttered period. It's a period that's extremely difficult to find artifacts for that don't cost a lot of money. And it was a matter of collecting and putting together and coordinating and trying to make it all look as good as you possibly can and establish the feel of the period more so than the exact replica of the period.
Hurry up, child. Just fixing Green Gables in my memory. In years to come,
I guess the main images from reading the book and from being familiar with the story were what you thought Green Gables itself looked like, what the exterior of the house looked like, and what the interior looked like. Mainly someplace that was very warm and very comfortable, and someplace where you would feel very at home and not want to leave.
The most important thing is the performance and the story and moving the audience. It was all there on the printed page when we started, but to see them perform that and to see the crew affected by it to such a great extent was a very, very moving experience. I think it was at that moment that I suddenly realized how very important the performance is. And without that, there is no film.
This has been a good experience, and you don't usually have a sentimental response to scripts. And this script, though, and the way it's being done, and Megan and Farnsworth and the actors that they have brought in that I've worked with are wonderful. I see them walk in here, and then I see them walk onto the stage, and we're back in time.
One of the strongest memories I'll take away is the very first day we started to shoot, which was just a wonderful moment of Megan Follows and Colleen Dewhurst walking down a road, and you suddenly thought, she really does look like Marilla and Anne of Green Gables. You know, maybe it's going to work.
Diana of the Lake of Shining Waters.
For mercy's sake, Charlie. You set your heart too much on silly names.
What should I call you? May I call you Aunt Marilla?
No. You can call me just plain Marilla. I don't believe in calling people names that are not their own.
But you could imagine you were my aunt.
No, I could not.
Don't you ever imagine things differently from what they are?
No.
Oh, Marilla, how much you miss.
Community-supported Channel 54 with programming that enriches and entertains. Made possible in part by Verilink, providing innovative solutions in digital telecommunications. KEZR 106.5 FM, mixing the best variety of your favorite songs. And by the more than 30,000 members of KTEH.
Anne of Green Gables is back. No longer an awkward girl, but a mature young woman. This two-part sequel brings back all of your favorite characters from Avonlea. Colleen Dewhurst as Marilla.
Anne, you have been my comfort and my joy since Matthew passed away.
Patricia Hamilton as Rachel.
Patience has ceased to be a virtue. I want this rumpus stopped right now.
Plus Dame Wendy Hiller as the eccentric Mrs. Harris.
Who are these rebel roses?
And Frank Converse as the dashing Captain Harris, who forces Anne to make a decision.
I want to ask you to marry me.
To decide between him and Gilbert Blythe.
I've loved you as long as I can remember.
Megan Follows stars in the sequel to Anne of Green Gables on WonderWorks.
Watch 1 week from tonight on KTEH.
Have you heard this before?
I like KTEH, but I only watch a few shows a week. They don't expect people like me to become a member. The people they expect contributions from are the people who watch all the time.
Sorry, but that's not quite it. Here are the facts. Every program you see on KTEH costs money. So if you watch KTEH even for only a few hours a week, you should help pay for what you like. And here's another fact. If you watch and enjoy the programs on Channel 54, then you should become a member of Channel 54. Send your contribution to KTEH membership, P.O. Box 1030, San Jose 95108.
Last time on WonderWorks, Anne attended her first formal ball, where she was ignored by Gilbert Blythe.
Good to see you, Rebecca. I'm your brother, anything.
Good evening, Gilbert Blythe.
Tell your brother I'll be seeing him at the tobogganing party.
She meets Diana's Aunt Josephine.
What is the meaning of this?
Anne also takes the test for the entrance to Queen's College.
You may now begin.
This time, Anne gives a dramatic reading.
Down like a dog on the highway. And he lay in his blood on the highway with a bunch of lace at his throat.
Goes away to college.
I'm afraid for her, Matthew. She'll be gone so long. She'll get terrible lonesome.
You mean we'll get terrible lonesome?
And receives some startling news from Marilla.
I never thought I'd live to see the day when I would sell this place.
Now the conclusion of Anne of Green Gables on WonderWorks.
WonderWorks is made possible by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with additional funding from this station and other public television stations, and the National Endowment for the Arts.
Please make a note that next week Anne's story continues on KTEH as we present the first episode of Anne of Green Gables, the sequel. That's 1 week from tonight at 7 o'clock. This is the kind of quality viewing that can only come as the result of your support of Channel 54. So if you're not a member, we hope that you will consider pledging your support sometime in the near future.
WonderWorks was made possible by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with additional funding from this station and other public television stations, and the National Endowment for the Arts.
Now a look behind the scenes at the making of Anne of Green Gables.
Very quiet, here we go.
And at the closing of the day, the broad stream bore her far away. And as the boat head wound along, they heard her singing her last song, The Lady of Shalott.
Cut. The way it was supposed to happen was there's like a beat before you actually get up. It's like you come out, that way you came out of it so quickly. Where did your feet go?
I wonder where you have to
They heard her singing her last song, The Lady of Shalott.
This particular scene was supposed to have a very grand feeling to it, so I wanted it to be fairly light-filled situation. What I'm lighting is lighting from outside into the interior, duplicating sun coming through windows.
And his rapier brandished high. Blood red were his spurs of the golden moon. Wine red was his velvet coat. When they shot him down on the highway, down like a dog on the highway. And he lay in his blood on the highway with a bunch of lace at his throat.
Actually, I've never been in front of a camera before, so it was straight from high school plays to this. And I remember my first scene was with Colleen Dewhurst when I walked in, and it was my very first day, and I had 3 lines, and I went over these 3 lines for 9 hours. I went over these lines trying to perfect them, and we were about to start the scene with Colleen Dewhurst, and she said, I don't think this is right. I think we should change it around a bit. So Kevin said, well, why don't we improvise it first? And I just got over these lines for 9 hours, and it was just like, improvise. All right, I'll go.
Good afternoon.
I'm Gilbert Blythe.
Yes. You've grown into quite a young man.
So you must be very proud of Anne. It's a real challenge keeping up with her at school.
Yes. Matthew and I are both proud. She has the talent to make something of herself. But she's still very young, Gilbert. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, ma'am.
Many of the locations that we were shooting at had their own inherent problems in them and didn't always allow us the latitude of getting everything we wanted at one particular location. The train station, for example, had to be done in 2 different locations because of the difficulty that we had in finding an accurate 1890s train. We weren't even fortunate enough to find a period engine. So we simply had to use the period cars.
Look, I'll take it, Matthew. It'll be easier if I go quickly by myself.
Getting emotional over nothing.
Nothing. You both mean everything to me.
Come forward. Okay, move back into the spot. Okay, and then...
All this foolishness. You might as well kiss him, too.
All aboard! All aboard!
Spencer made a lucky mistake, I guess. It wasn't luck, it was providence. He knew we needed her. Even with her queer little ways. I loved her for them.
Channel 54.
That makes the programs possible here on member-supported television, KTEH, Channel 54.
Now, open your readers, please.
Anne of Green Gables is back. No longer an awkward girl, but a mature young woman. This two-part sequel brings back all of your favorite characters from Avonlea. Colleen Dewhurst as Marilla.
Anne, you have been my comfort and my joy since Master passed away.
Patricia Hamilton as Rachel.
Patience has ceased to be a virtue. I want this rumpus stopped right now.
Skylar Gratt as Diana.
Things are so mixed up in real life, Anne. Never as clear as they are in romantic novels.
Plus Dame Wendy Hiller as the eccentric Mrs. Harris.
This is anarchy. Who are these rebel roses?
And Frank Converse as the dashing Captain Harris, who forces Anne to make a decision.
I want to ask you to marry me.
To decide between him and her longtime friend, Gilbert Blythe.
I've loved you as long as I can remember.
Megan Follows stars in the sequel to Anne of Green Gables on WonderWorks.
WonderWorks is made possible by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with additional funding from this station and other public television stations, and the National Endowment for the Arts.
I'll be over this afternoon with your $20.
Well, it's taught me a lesson not to stake my word of honor on cows.
We will return to Anne of Green Gables, the sequel, after this brief intermission.
Missing a moment of this delightful program, Anne of Green Gables, the sequel, our WonderWorks program, part 1 for this evening. I hope you're enjoying it. My name is Nancy Reeves. I'm a member of the staff here at Channel 54. We've stopped the tape just for a couple of minutes to talk to you about this kind of fine programming and hope that you will call in and help us to pay for this kind of excellent programming. We do not do this very often. Only about 1% of our total airtime for the year do we have these pledge breaks, but they're an important thing for us. It is the most cost-effective way for us to reach you, the viewer, and let you know how we work here at Channel 54. We depend on public support, community support, for more than 75% of our funding. And what does that funding do? It pays directly for outstanding programs like Anne of Green Gables. So why don't you lift your phone right now and listen to those ringing telephones. They're tremendous. Thank you very much. Why don't you call to 998-5400 and make a contribution to help support WonderWorks. With me here in the studio is a good friend of Channel 54, Dave Mariah of Kara. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Do appreciate that. I have a couple of children at home, and as I get older, I'm discovering there's an ongoing battle in reference to the television set. It is so difficult at times to find quality family programming. I don't guess I have to tell you that. You're aware of some of the things that are being offered. Well, fortunately, Channel 54 is very responsible in its sense to the family. by providing you with the type of shows that you're seeing tonight. These are ideal family shows, shows that, of course, that everyone can enjoy. And as you saw, the lady was slipping in the mud and so forth. There's humor, there's pathos, there's everything you need, all of the really intelligent things that children need so well in their development. Now, the bill, of course, for most of these shows on Channel 54, I'm talking about Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, and all of these children's shows, is $188,000. You think about that for a moment. That is a big sum of money, and it is up to you to help out Channel 54 to make sure that they're able to raise these funds. That's why you have to call 998-5400. $188,000. That's a big chunk of money. But the programming is perfect. It's exactly what the children need, and that's one of the important reasons why you need to pick up the phone right now and call 998-5400. Nancy?
Yes, and to give you a little extra added incentive to make that call, if you're enjoying this Anne of Green Gables program this evening, we have something special that you might want to give to a friend or a child of a friend or your own children to enjoy even more the Anne of Green Gables stories. We first of all have the 3-book set. These are 3 novels, including Anne of Green Gables and Anne of Avonlea, and Anne of the Island, I believe, is the other title. They are the stories upon which this series is based. They're yours for a contribution of $54 as our thank you to you for your support. We also have the Anne of Green Gables diary. Now, this is a lovely little diary that your a daughter might enjoy writing her precious moments in. It has quotations from the books, drawings of the characters, and of course space to write your own memories in. Very special book, yours for a contribution to the station of $54. I think you can see Anne and Gilbert right there. And then, last but certainly not least, we have Megan Follows, who's the star of this Anne of Green Gables presentation, reading from the Anne of Green Gables stories in this 2-cassette set that we'd like to send you also for a $54 pledge. And if you can't make up your mind, you think all of them are pretty special, well, we have a special deal for you. We'd like to send them to you for a contribution of $130, all 3 of them. What you need to do when you make that call to Channel 54 is ask the telephone volunteers for that with your pledge to be sure that we get them to you as quickly as we can. The important thing, of course, is that your contribution helps support WonderWorks. It's something that will plan for the future of the WonderWorks series. Those ringing telephones tell us that you want more WonderWorks programs like Anne of Green Gables, and we listen very carefully to those telephones. So take a moment right now to make that call. And Dave, I think, has gone over to the phone banks.
The phones are lighting up beautifully. We want to thank you so very much. If you watch Channel 54, you should support Channel 54. This is something they believe in. They're doing all of this for you, and it is so important for you to provide them with the funds so that you're able to see the programs tonight. Now, I realize at this point it's kind of difficult to break away and go to the phones and call up, but yet it takes only a few seconds, and 54 becomes that much stronger. So you walk to your phone, call 998-5400, or you can call 800-CALL, C-A-L-L, 454, and make your pledge. Of course, $35 is your basic pledge, and we would definitely encourage you. $35, many ways to pay. You can use your MasterCard, your Visa. You can use, of course, a convenient payment plan. Send your check in. Remember, when you do get the envelope, to make sure that you send that pledge to 54. And may I point out to you, Nancy and I, as a matter of fact, were talking about this a few seconds ago, but your contribution tonight is tax deductible, and I think that it won't be too long before Mr. Taxman is knocking on the door asking for his money. You need every break you possibly can get, and contributing to Channel 54 tonight is the ideal way. Now, you see the phone bank here with these wonderful volunteers. We'd like to acknowledge some of them right now. 5 of the volunteers are from the IDEA Alternative Education Program, and we have 10 from our very own Community Volunteer Corps. So call, call, call. You aren't missing a minute of the program. We will, of course, continue in just a bit, but we want this opportunity to let you know that Channel 54 is getting stronger each day, thanks to you.
As you know, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we are very dependent on the community for our support. And we set some important goals which we need to meet. And we have a goal for this evening of 350 new members we hope will join us this evening. And we've had a few so far, but it started off just a little bit slow. Things are picking up now. I can hear those ringing telephones, and that is music to our ears. When we do pledge, and we try and do it as little as possible, as I said, only about 1% of the year of our airtime during the year is devoted to breaks like this. But we look towards the future, and your contribution is an investment in the future of Channel 54. It helps us plan for the programs, for upcoming programs that we would like to buy. And if we do well, then we know that we can afford to buy new episodes of WonderWorks. WonderWorks is one of the most outstanding children's programs on television today. It's won all of the top awards, including Emmy Awards and the George Foster Peabody Awards for excellence in programming. As you can tell, it is an outstanding series. And if you're enjoying it, well, then we hope you will invest in the future of more programs like it by making your call right now. 998-5400 is the local number, or call at our expense, 800-225-5454. How's it going over there, Dave?
It is doing very well now. The phones are really lighting up, and we're seeing the enthusiasm right now at the phone bank, so you definitely have to call. We're going to get back to the program in just a bit, and needless to say, this is a superb program for all members of the family. This is an ideal time for you and the family to be around the television set to really appreciate what Channel 54 can do for you. But now you have to make yours part. For an example, we understand that Channel 54, the viewership, is up a phenomenal 24%. That is extraordinary. Channel 54 is doing something and doing something very well. But membership is still not at the level that 54 desires. And this is where you can help. If you watch Channel 54, support Channel 54. How do you do it? You pick up the phone, call 998-5400. Make the basic pledge, $35. If you're feeling more generous, make a greater pledge. Of course, the thank you gifts will be on their way in the mail. No problem whatsoever. The main thing is to see to it that Channel 54 continues. The viewership is up. That means more people are tuning into 54 and finding these excellent programs. But now we have to get the membership up. Our goal tonight is 350 new members. We would like you, specifically you, to be a part of that. So definitely pick up the phone right now. Continue to call even after the show starts. Get a member of the family to say, run over and make the pledge real quick. We'll tape it or we'll tell you what happened. But have them call up immediately. 998-5400. It is so crucial. Now we're going to take you back to a most exciting era, to a most exciting show. It's perfect for the family, and it's being brought to you tonight on Channel 54.
How do you think a mother would feel? She found her child tattooed all over with a baking powder advertisement. I love my story, and I wrote it out of the best that was in me.
You're just tired.
We will return to Anne of Green Gables, the sequel, after this brief intermission.
So definitely, please stay with us. We're taking a short break right now. I'm Dave Mariah, of course, from Carol Radio, with my co-host this evening from KTEH. Nancy Reeves is with us. We're having a very good time presenting, of course, this most outstanding show. And if you really enjoy this kind of intelligent family programming, then at this point, we would definitely like you to pick up your telephone and make a pledge, of course, to Channel 54. Channel 54 is growing each and every day. They're able to provide you with this wonderful, wonderful show, a show that has received acclaim after acclaim, a show that every member of the family can enjoy, a show that reflects the real beauty of life, because children, as well as adults, they're very intelligent in viewing these kinds of things, and they enjoy what's happening. So definitely pick up the phone right now and call 998-5400 on Channel 54. Nancy?
Thank you, Dave. Yes, if you like this kind of programming, it is important that you make that call, because this type of programming is very expensive. And I know you have a daughter, and I hope this is a type of program,
right now.
that she's going to enjoy. And one of the reasons Dave is here is because he believes in this type of outstanding program. And we hope, if you believe it, that you'll make that call. We are a responsive station. We listen very carefully to our viewers. In fact, when you call in and make that contribution to Channel 54, well, we consider you a member of our family, and we listen to our family members. Those ringing telephones tell us that you want to see more of programs like Anne of Green Gables, more of the outstanding, award-winning WonderWorks programs that we love to air for you on Saturday nights. But as I said, they cost a lot of money, and how do we pay for them? We pay for them through community support. and that is more than 75% of our budget comes from individual memberships like you, people like you who watch the program and say, yes, I believe in what Channel 54 has to offer, and they pick up their phone and they give us a call right now. Why don't you join them? 998-5400 is the local number, or if you're outside the 408 area code, 800-225-5454. And to give them a little extra incentive, Dave, I think you have something to offer?
Some extraordinary gifts, and we would like you to call up right now with your $54 pledge. You have your choice of these 3 items. I'm going to show them to you now, and if you happen to be a fan of the Anne of Green Gables series, this is the sequel that you're watching this evening. Pay close attention to what you have. First off, we have the very beautiful diary. Take a very close look at this. This diary, of course, is actually her diary as well as your diary. You are able to find out all sorts of things about the program and make your own private notations, whatever. Also, the entire book series, here it is, all 3, comes in a binder, and you get the 3 books within it. It's excellent reading for any member of the family. It's just as good as the show that you're watching tonight. So definitely a $54 pledge, and it's yours. And finally, for those of you who enjoy, and this I understand is kind of the new thing now, many people in Hollywood are doing it. They don't have time to read, so what do? They listen to the audio cassette. Yours too, for a $54 pledge. Now, we can make it easy for you. If you would like all 3, just pledge $130 and it's yours. Now, remember the telephone number, 998-5400. You make that call tonight. You make that call right now. We'll get back to the show in just a bit, but it's very important that you show your support by becoming a new member on Channel 54. The phones are ringing loudly, and Nancy, take it away.
Yes, the phones are ringing marvelously. We're very happy. We've had most of our phone volunteers on the phones. If you've had trouble getting through, you can get in right now. We've got some open lines. Thank you very much for those calls. We're here with volunteers from the KTEH community and also from the IDEA Alternative Education Program. They've donated their evening tonight to answer your call. If you and your family are enjoying this program, I want to let you know about a special program that's coming up. Maybe some of your children watch Sesame Street. Well, we have the Sesame Street Special, and we'd like to show you a preview of that. It's going to be coming up next Saturday, March 12th, and it's got some fantastic numbers. I think you'll enjoy it.
Every door will open wide to happy people like you, happy people like me. What a beautiful sunny day. Sweeping up.
Join us for an all-star Sesame Street Special.
To where the air is sweet.
And if you want to know the way to get to Sesame Street, especially this marvelous special with a hit song that I personally love called Put Down the Ducky. It's great. You've got to tune in for it. It's next Saturday night, March 12th at 6 o'clock, and that will be followed by the conclusion of Anne of Green Gables, the sequel. Be sure and tune in and keep those calls coming to help pay for such great family programming as Anne of Green Gables and Sesame Street. And I think we have some thank yous from the last break, don't we, Dave?
You know, we have done very well tonight, and we want to thank you for all of your support. The overall objective this evening is to get 350 new members, and we are reaching that particular goal by the moment. We would like you to be the very latest member. Now, we do have some very generous people who have given generously of themselves to help support Channel 54. We would like to acknowledge, for an example, Margaret Tomosini of Greenfield, who generously donated $100 to Channel 54. Margaret, if I could take a second to personally thank you so very much. Also, Eleanor Sekarak of Castro Valley, $130 from you, Eleanor. Thank you very much for supporting Channel 54. The wonderful thank you gifts, of course, will be on their way to you. But it isn't just the thank you gifts. It isn't just the programming. It's the overall attitude of Channel 54, because they are actually becoming a part of your home. They are able to bring you the kind of television shows that make the entire family kind of rejoice with the really quality that they have. These are shows that you can turn on any time of the day or night and bring any member of the family into them, and you know exactly what they're doing. Channel 54 has all sorts of shows, but you have to see to it that these shows get on the air. And by supporting Channel 54, you're actually supporting each show. With all of the pledges that we're having tonight, you are giving that affirmation that says, yes, we wish to be a part of 54. Yes, we do enjoy the show that you're presenting to us tonight. And yes, we would like to be a member. There you have it. We need 350 new members tonight. We have so far reached a little over 70. Channel 54 has grown an astounding 23% in its viewership. But the membership, that is even more important. If we could grow 23% tonight, Channel 54 is well on its way to meeting all of its financial commitments. So call the telephone number 998-5400, 998-5400, and I'll turn things over to Nancy right now, and she will tell you just how easy it is to pledge your money to Channel 54.
It is very, very easy. All you do is you lift up your telephone and call one of those numbers on your screen and talk to one of our telephone volunteers. They'll ask you how much you'd like to contribute to Channel 54, and you can make it whatever.
We will return to Anne of Green Gables, the sequel, after this brief intermission.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Reeves, and I certainly hope you're enjoying Anne of Green Gables, the sequel. We're going to be going to the conclusion of this program in just a couple of minutes, but we wanted to take a couple of minutes to stop the tape and talk to you a little bit about this excellent program. And it is an excellent program, an outstanding family program based on one of the most beloved stories in the history of children's literature. And it has followed Anne from her being an orphan, taken under the wing of Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, to being a grown woman. And next week we'll have the conclusion of Anne of Green Gables, the sequel, and you'll see what happens, but I'm not going to fill you in yet. It's interesting to note that Channel 54 was a child of the County Office of Education, and many of you who've been members of Channel 54 for many years have watched us grow. Well, we are not exactly an orphan now, but we're no longer under the wing of the County Office of Education. We are now an independent, community-licensed station. We belong to you. You, the community, you, the viewers, and hopefully you becoming a member of Channel 54 right now. This is your last opportunity tonight to call in your support for Anne of Green Gables. We listen very carefully to those ringing telephones and to those contributions that come in to help pay for this outstanding WonderWorks program. And we hope you will join our family by calling right now. 998-5400 is the local number, or perhaps you live outside the 408 area code. Well, please call at our expense at 800-225-5454. Now, I've had the pleasure this evening of once again working with Dave Mariah of Cara Radio Station. Dave, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
I don't know if I can hear you, Nancy. The phones are so incredibly loud. You know, we're really developing a tremendous amount of energy here, and one of the things that I think that has to be brought forth at this time is that this is Saturday night, and most of us on a Saturday night are doing exactly what you are doing, sitting very comfortably in a wonderfully warm sofa and watching a great television show. Well, these people have opted to be here instead. They're working under these rather warm lights. They're here answering these phone calls. And it's so important for you to acknowledge them. They're taking their time, as I am taking my time, to be here in something that they commonly believe in, and that is Channel 54, how to make it stronger, how to get more members. So this is your responsibility, because if you watch 54, you need to support it. The phones are now ringing. They fire off in an order. We want to get all of the phones lit up. Paula, for an example, has not received a call yet. Neither has Joe or Pat. Definitely call up 998-5400. How can you pay for these pledges? The basic, of course, is $35. You can charge it to your Visa or your MasterCard. You can always send a check. And there are many other ways, of course, that we will tell you about a little later on. We can see to it that a little amount is taken out of your checking account on a monthly basis. It's very simple. So you have many options in reference to seeing to it that Channel 54 continues. So call right now, 998-5400, 998-5400. Remember that telephone number. We will give it to you many more times tonight, but remember that. Now, there are some other things that you might be most intrigued in, and they are called some really wonderful gifts. Nancy will tell you more.
Yes, these are our ways of saying thank you to you if you would like to receive one of them for your support to Channel 54. First of all, we have the 3-book set Anne of Green Gables stories upon which this series is based. We have the Anne of Green Gables original book, Anne of Avonlea and Anne of the Island. 3 books by Lucy Maud Montgomery that tell this wonderful story upon which this series is based. Yours for a contribution of $54. Then, Lucy Maud Montgomery, when she was writing these books, kept her own diary about 100 years ago, and we have a beautiful Anne of Green Gables diary. It has pictures from the series, quotations from the series. It even has a wonderful recipe for light and creamy vanilla ice cream. It's really a lovely book with plenty of space for you or a daughter or a cousin or a friend of the family to keep special memories in. That's also yours for a contribution of $54. And we have the cassettes of the story as read by Megan Follows, who is the star, who is Anne of Green Gables, who reads the story. And those, of course, you could listen to at bedtime, or you could listen to while you're driving in your car. We have 2 cassettes also for a $54 pledge. And if you can't make up your mind, well, we'd be very pleased to send all 3 of them to you for a contribution of $130. But of course, the most important thing is that your contribution, your telephone call tonight, will help pay for the WonderWorks series, especially for Anne of Green Gables, and for future programs that we want to bring you on Saturday nights, when I, for one, love to settle down and watch WonderWorks followed by British comedy. So please, take a moment right now and dial 998-5400, or toll-free, you can call 800-225-5454. Dave, I hear ringing telephones over there. That's terrific.
It's extraordinary, Nancy. It really is. 350 new members, and by George, we're going to make it tonight. We want to thank some very wonderful people who have taken their time, of course, to be here, and I'd like to introduce to you a very lovely lady. If she would stand here for just one quick second. Come on up. Come on up. Take a good look in the camera so everybody can see you. This is Marie Delazana. And Marie, you represent an organization which is called what?
It's the IDEA program.
And what does the IDEA program do?
Okay, we're a public education program. We have a kindergarten through 4th grade. We are based in the Berryessa district. Our philosophy is that we are trying to look at the whole child, that education exists between the home and the family. And when we look at the whole child, we're trying to develop creative thinking with this child.
Which is one of the things, of course, that 54 can help in with some of these outstanding shows then tonight.
Absolutely. And we do use your program.
I would imagine that this particular show that you've been watching, you've been most interested in this, haven't you?
Really, it's very interesting.
All right. And thank you, Marie, thank you so very much for being here with us. And we'll let you get back to the phones. I know you're getting some phone calls. You can see how easy it is. You can see the people who are here tonight helping in raising money for Channel 54. That's right. It is up to you to support this fine station. A lot of misconceptions, of course, apply when it comes to Channel 54. They get a lot of money, of course, from oil companies. They are funded by the major public broadcasting system in Washington, D.C. In some cases, they do get small quantities, but most of the money comes from you. Your generosity, your care for Channel 54, and you're seeing an outstanding show tonight. There's no question about it. Considering what there are on some of the other stations, tonight is truly a rare and wonderful treat. And this is the kind of thing that is done continually on Channel 54. So I encourage you to pick up the phone right now, 998-5400, 998-5400. Make those pledges. Get everybody involved. For an example, we just got one from Mr. John Yurchak. I hope I pronounced your name, John, from Monterey. $120. Thank you, sir. We do appreciate it. Nancy?
Thank you, Dave. And it is very heartwarming working on these evenings, as I do as a member of the staff, to see all of these people here. Almost everyone here tonight is a volunteer. They have dedicated their time to help bring this message to you. This is our most cost-effective way of reaching you, the viewer, and letting you know how it is that we pay for these programs. As Dave said, most of the money, more than 75%, comes directly from the community, and most of that is from individual members of the KTEH family. We set some very important goals during this festival, and tonight we have an important goal of 350 new members. Now, at the end of last break, we were at 125 members, and I'd say at least 25 calls have come in. But we need at least 25 more. Let's get halfway to our goal, at least during this break. And you can do it. You can help us out by making those...
14. Girdle. Myrtle and girdle. 14. Hind. That's H-E-I-N-D. Alice B. Hind. 14.
I trust she'll sing for the creditors if the whole thing flops. But don't say I didn't warn you.
Please join us next Saturday night at 7 o'clock as we present the concluding episode of Anne of Green Gables, the sequel. This is an excellent example of the role public television plays in your community, providing quality alternatives for young and old alike. And we present our programs in partnership with our viewers. And if you're a viewer who's not yet a member, we would very much like to hear from you tonight. Our toll-free number is 800-225-5454, and it's your pledge of support that makes programs like Anne of Green Gables possible. If people don't pledge, we can't bring you the program. It's that simple. It's also simple to make your pledge. The whole process takes about 2 minutes or so, but you can't support the programs unless you first make that all-important phone call, so please don't put it off any longer. We do have some volunteers.
Keep water, the water of intellectual thinking, that oasis. Call us, please, and pledge your support, not for us, but for you, because your gift to Channel 54, your gift around Sesame Street or WonderWorks, comes back to you and your family and your children 365 days a year. And without your support, it's not going to happen. George, back to you in the front.
Thank you. We are just a few minutes away from Anne of Green Gables, the sequel, Part 2. And I want to remind you that Channel 54 is once again the station to bring it to you first here in the Bay Area, something that we pride ourselves here at Channel 54. We have unique programs. As a matter of fact, more than 50% of what you see on KTEH you will not find on any other Bay Area TV station, be it a public station or a commercial station. But this uniqueness does cost money. These programs do not come to us free, and that's why it's so very important that our viewers do their part. Right now, though, get very comfortable because we have an exceptionally good program coming up, Part 2 of Anne of Green Gables, the sequel. This is a very good example of the kind of quality that you make possible with your pledge of support to non-commercial public television, KTEH Channel 54. Enjoy the program.
Many viewers tell us that they prefer to make their pledge by mail. Please send your check to KTEH Membership, P.O. Box 1030, San Jose 95108. It's your pledge of support that makes the programs possible here on member-supported television, KTEH Channel 54.
Last time on WonderWorks, we saw Anne take a teaching position at a girls' school. Not only the students, but the town and the head of the school are against her.
I understand you have extraordinary talents. I look forward to observing them.
Glad I meet with your approval in some approximation.
We shall see. You are here as a result of the board's decision, not mine.
This time, to assure her position in the community, Anne feels she has to win over the town matriarch.
This is anarchy. Who are these rebel roses?
I thought you could host a picnic for the school.
I don't eat my lunch outside with anyone, girl. I'm not a raggle-taggle gypsy. Take me in, take me in.
Mrs. Harris, some of these young girls are Pringles.
Pringles?
Yes, and you don't want them running home and telling tales.
You'll pay for this.
And also directs the school play.
Now do it this way. I am innocent! Save me, sweet lady!
But at the last moment...
Jen Pringle will not be performing this evening. You can't be serious. Not after all this effort. We shall simply have to return the tickets and put it off.
This is a deliberate device to ruin the play and get rid of me.
Anne also finds that her relationship with Captain Harris is changing.
I won't lose you, Anne Shirley.
Let go of me.
Please, I would not... Oh!
Captain Harris. Oh, I'm awfully sorry. But you grabbed me.
I want to ask you to marry me.
Then, when she returns to Green Gables, she hears some startling news.
Did you know Gilbert Blythe was dying?
Minnie May, hold your tongue. What do you mean, Diana? We didn't mean to tell you so suddenly, Anne.
He took scarlet fever in midterm. He picked it up at the hospital in Halifax.
Terrible, worn out with school, I expect. They've got a trained nurse, and everything's been done.
The conclusion of the sequel to Anne of Green Gables on WonderWorks.
WonderWorks is made possible by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with additional funding from this station and other public television stations, and the National Endowment for the Arts.
We will return to Anne of Green Gables, the sequel, after this brief intermission.
Good evening. I'm Peter Krask here in the Channel 54 studios, and I certainly hope that you're enjoying watching Megan Follows and the marvellous Dame Wendy Hiller as much at home as we're enjoying watching them both here in the Channel 54 studios. You're not missing a moment of Anne of Green Gables, the sequel. We've stopped the tape, and we've stopped the tape for an important reason. We've stopped the tape to enable you, sitting at home right now, perhaps with your family around you, to call in your support to Channel 54 at 408-998-5400 if you would like to support public television programming as good as WonderWorks. And what a wonderful program we are enjoying here this evening. If you're calling from outside the 408 area code, call that number at the bottom of the screen right now at our expense, 800-225-5454. But whatever happens, don't sit back in your chair now. Do your part to keep...
This is inside the courtyard, now inside the church. There's a difference between the people in the courtyard and the church. The people in the church are considered to be extra special guests, dignitaries, people, public officials, church officials, leaders of other churches, whereas the people in the courtyard are, to a great degree, children, school children, and some disabled. This is, now we have the Pope's helicopter coming, well, I suppose it's the Pope's helicopter, coming in from another angle. The two large helicopters you saw a moment ago came in from the north. The smaller helicopter, which appears to be the same one the Pope got in Laguna Seca, coming in from the south. Now the people who were lucky enough to be living next door to the mission and who were not allowed into the mission for the special event are waving at the Pope. Others have waited in line or waited at bus stops for hours and hours and hours, and some of them, as you reported earlier, were unlucky enough not to even get to Laguna Seca. These people who just happen to live next door to the Carmel mission are going to get as close as most people in Laguna Seca did. Now, just before the helicopter touched down, the bells in the mission began ringing. The cries from the people in the courtyard have subsided. There are still some waving pom-poms and yellow banners. Now, these people will see the people in the courtyard will see the Pope second. That is to say, the people in the church will greet him first. He will greet some of them. He will say the prayer at Father Sarah's grave, make the speech about Father Sarah and Father Sarah's role in the missionary movement in California, and then the Pope will go out into the courtyard. Now I can see the beginning of the motorcade. Now you can see it. It's interesting that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars or so for a trip of less than a block, perhaps. But Secret Service and backup Secret Service and Highway Patrol, even though the ride is, well, it's probably a 4 or 5 minute walk. Now the neighbors who have the first sight of the Pope are applauding and cheering. I'm told the reason for this motorcade, even though for such a short distance, is because of security. The Pope is exposed here, and although not nearly as exposed, of course, as he was in Laguna Seca, it was thought that just for protection purposes, and to some degree for protocol, that he should ride. The mission bells continue to peal. The window in the basilica.
Mike, we were just talking a minute ago about the cloistered nuns who are there, and Father Walsh said that he knows some of them. Are you familiar with their story?
I understand. An intriguing story that I learned last night is that, well, you know that some of these nuns have spent more than half their lives cloistered, that is to say, not leaving a monastery or a convent, a very enclosed area. And I'm told that one nun, a Sister Mary Francisca, I believe her name is, who has been cloistered in the Carmelite monastery since the 1940s, came to the monastery after being a Hollywood gossip columnist. Now that's
the sisters there are contemplatives. They feel that their service is to pray. Many of them are women who had careers. One was a doctor, one was a teacher. One that I know worked in public relations in Hollywood back in the 1940s.
Maybe that's the one that Mike is referring to as the gossip columnist, do you think?
That's probably the one.
Yes,
they know everything that's going on.
I would prefer to believe she was a gossip columnist. I mean, that is to say, she was in public relations. Although
and this is actually the first time, unless they have to go to the doctor or something, they don't leave the monastery. This is the first time the community, to my knowledge, has ever left as a group to go somewhere.
Do you know any?
I understand that it required a special permission from the Vatican.
Pope reading them.
Yes, I think they did. I don't know that Father Walsh can always hear you, Mike. That's why he is interrupting, because I know he wouldn't otherwise. But you said that you knew some of them personally, these cloistered nuns?
I go down and work as their chaplain during the summer. And so I've known them since I was in college. They started there in 1925. And actually, the town of Carmel got its name from a priest of that order, and the land reminded him of the Holy Land and Mount Carmel. So the town was named after the Holy Land, and then the sisters originally started on that mountain.
Right here. Mike?
Yes, and now the Pope is at the entryway of the Basilica and is about to go inside. I wonder some of the experts in San Francisco could help me identify the people we see greeting him here.
Bishop Shubsta is to our right, the tall one, I believe. He's the Bishop of Monterey.
Now if things go as planned, the Pope will go into the church. He is, as I understand it, it is planned that he will acknowledge two groups. That he will acknowledge, pay special attention to the nuns, and I suppose those are the cloistered nuns out of their cloister now, on the right-hand side of our screen.
That's right.
And that he will acknowledge also the aged and infirm priests. There are a number of priests who are retired and who are aged and sick, and he will acknowledge them. He may, of course, extemporaneously stop and talk or wave or touch to other people, as appears to be the case now. Also in this group are the 30 leaders and their spouses, 30 leaders and spouses of other ecumenical groups, that is to say, other religions. My understanding is they're drawn mostly from the Monterey Diocese area. Most of them are Protestants, however, there are some Buddhist leaders and some Muslim leaders. I do not know, and I could not find out if there were to be invited guests here from the Jewish faith. That is, leaders from the Jewish faith.
Sister Francisca.
Which one is she?
She's right in the middle there. The glasses on.
Oh, I see.
That would be the Carmelite community. That's their prioress to the right on the screen. The superior. They're elected for, I believe, a 5-year period. There they are.
How much of a culture shock do you think it is for them coming out?
Well, it's not a culture shock in as much as people are always asking them to pray for different needs, and they get the paper, and they do go out if they need to go to the doctor. But it must be unique in their experience as a community. They visit with people. People come in to see them.
Exactly.
They don't actually see the people face to face, though, do they?
They would see them face to face, but they're in a separate room with a divider.
I see.
To kind of symbolize their desire for contemplation and separation. I'm sure the picture everyone will want is when the Pope and the mayor greet one another.
Well, it'll be the second time for that.
Yeah.
No, did it?
When was the first time? Oh, at the airport.
Yes, I thought I saw it.
I hope he's making his day.
Also in this group are about 100 members of the Mission Carmel Parish, because the mission, besides being a mission and the headquarters, as it were, of the Monterey Diocese, is also a regular parish church. If you can be a regular church after being all those other things.
Bishop Shubsta of Monterey.
Not that fellow, no.
No, but he resides at the Carmel Mission.
That's right, he does.
Is that he on the Pope's left?
That's he.
Yes. He lives there, but the cathedral is actually the old Presidio chapel from mission days. Is now the cathedral over the hill in Monterey.
So the church and the military were together at that point?
Well, there was a chapel for the military, because they were, of course, good Catholics, more or less. And then there was the mission for the Indians.
And the Carmel Mission dates back, what, 1770s?
I think 1761 it was founded, if I'm not mistaken. That was San Diego. 1769, maybe. There are the other non-Catholic Christian leaders.
What is this photograph for? Is this the official photograph?
The photograph with the leaders?
Yes.
I presume so, yes. Just kind of a souvenir of the meeting. The Pope has a photographer that follows him everywhere and takes pictures of just about everyone he meets so that people can get a memento of the meeting.
I don't recognize the people he's greeting now, but from their position and from the rank they're in, it appears that they are some of the special guests, the religious leaders.
That is Bishop Clinch, the retired Bishop of Monterey. Who grew up, I believe, in San Anselmo.
Born there, right? I believe
Yes.
he was born there.
There is the grave of Father Sarah.
There are actually 3 graves at the altar. The other 2 graves are for the priest who worked with Father Sarah. They both outlived him. What would the Pope be saying, would you imagine now? What is the nature of the prayer he would say here?
Quite possibly recollecting himself before he preaches. That's what he always does, and gathers strength from the Lord before he approaches the Lord's people.
I would suspect, you know, he sees Sarah as a great evangelizer and traveler, and that's what the Pope himself is doing, and I bet he's asking for a little support in this.
As I understand it, the graves here were essentially abandoned when the mission was allowed to fall into ruins after Mexico secularized the church, and for many years, perhaps the best part of a century, they lay under the graves lay under rubble.
I remember seeing pictures at the mission of the church itself in ruins, and of course it's been rebuilt. Harry Downey, who just died a few years ago, would have been responsible for restoring the mission, and some of the work in Mission Dolores as well.
Now, how controversial, in just a short period of time, because I'm sure the Pope is going to speak shortly, how controversial do you think his talk about Father Sarah is going to be? How well will it be received?
It doesn't seem to be...
He's going to essentially endorse everything that Sarah did, and that could be controversial for some.
I guess it's an endorsement short of canonization.
Yes. And I think, too, of putting it in the context of what he said in Phoenix, where he admitted that there were abuses and loss of culture.
Now, I cannot hear what is being said there. Can you?
He just said, peace be with you.
Let us pray.
Every occasion the Pope goes to, he begins with a prayer for the occasion, and often there's a hymn following, but not always.
Father, keep your people the spirit which filled Charles Borromeo. Let your church be continually renewed and show the image of Christ to the world by being conformed to his likeness, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever.
The Pope just offered a prayer through the intercession of St. Charles Borromeo, who is actually the patron saint of the Carmel mission, Mission San Carlos Borromeo, a reformer of the church after the Council of Trent, so someone timely for the church today after the Second Vatican Council.
Holy Father, this is a place of history. This is a place of Christianity.
Again, I cannot hear what is being said
and
now.
it is fitting
This is a
that
welcome by
you should
Bishop
come on your
Schuster
apostolic journey
of the Pope.
to a place where is buried the Apostle of California, Venerable Fray Junipero Serra. You have come to a place that was his favorite. He asked that he would be buried here, and in fulfillment of his wish, He has remained here over 200 years, and he has been visited by people from around the world, some out of curiosity, some with deep devotion. And because this place is so special, we give to you our hearts, our minds, because you are an apostle, the successor of Peter, the prince of the apostles. And we come here because we want to show you our respect, we want to show you our honor, we want to show you our unity. And we ask you to please share with us your thoughts and your words relative to the message of Christ.
The Pope will now proceed to give a talk. It's
Dear
about
Bishop
3 or 4
Schubstadt,
pages long on
dear brothers and sisters,
Father Sarah.
I come today as a pilgrim to this mission of San Carlos, which so powerfully evokes the heroic spirit and heroic deeds of Fray Junipero Serra, and which enshrines his mortal remains. This serene and beautiful place is truly the historical and spiritual heart of California. All the missions of El Camino Real bear witness to the challenges and heroism of an earlier time, but not a time forgotten or without significance for the California of today and the Church of today. These buildings and the men who gave them life, especially their spiritual father, Junipero Serra, are reminders of an age of discovery and exploration. The missions are the result of a conscious moral decision made by people of faith in a situation that presented many human possibilities, both good and bad, with respect to the future of this land and its native peoples. It was a decision rooted in a love of God and neighbor. It was a decision to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the dawn of a new age which was extremely important for both the European settlers and the Native Americans.
Will either of you meet the Pope?
Very often,
No.
at crucial moments in human affairs, God raises up men and women whom he trusts into roles of decisive importance for the future development of both society and the church. Although their story unfolds within the ordinary circumstances of daily life, they become larger than life within the perspective of history. We rejoice all. We rejoice all the more when their achievement is coupled with a holiness of life that can truly be called heroic. So it is with Junipero Serra, who in the providence of God was destined to be the apostle of California and to have a permanent influence over the spiritual patrimony of this land and its people, whatever their religion might be. apostolic awareness is captured in the words ascribed to him. In California is my life, and there, God willing, I hope to die. Through Christ's Paschal mystery, that death has become a seed in the soil of this state that continues to bear fruit 30 or 60 or 100-fold. Father Serra was a man convinced of the Church's mission, conferred upon her by Christ himself to evangelize the world, to make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. The way in which he fulfilled that mission corresponds faithfully to the Church's vision today of what evangelization means. The Church evangelizes when he seeks to convert solely through the divine power of the message she proclaims, both the personal and collective consciences of people, the activities in which they engage, and the lives and concrete milieu which are theirs. He not only brought the gospel to the Native Americans, but as one who lived the gospel, he also became their defender and champion. At the age of 60, he journeyed from Carmel to Mexico City to intervene with the viceroy of their behalf, a journey which twice brought him close to death, and presented his now famous Representation with its Bill of Rights, which had as their aim the betterment of every phase of missionary activity in California, particularly the spiritual and physical well-being of its Native Americans. Father Serra and his fellow missionaries shared the conviction found everywhere in the New Testament that the gospel is a matter of life and salvation. They believed that in offering to people Jesus Christ, they were doing something of immense value, importance, and dignity. What other explanation can there be for the hardships that they freely and gladly endured, like St. Paul and all the other great missionaries before them? Difficult and dangerous travel, illness and isolation, an ascetical lifestyle, arduous labor, and also, like St. Paul, that concern for all the churches which Junipero Serra, in particular, experienced as President of the California missions in the face of every vicissitude, disappointment, and opposition. Dear brothers and sisters, like Father Serra and his Franciscan brother, we too are called to be evangelizers, to share actively in the Church's mission of making disciples of all people. The way in which we fulfill that mission will be different from theirs, but their lives speak to us still because of their sure faith that the gospel is true, and because of their passionate belief in the value of bringing that saving truth to others at great personal cost. Much to be envied are those who can give their lives for something greater than themselves in loving service to others. This, more than words or deeds alone, is what draws people to Christ. This single-mindedness is not reserved for great missionaries in exotic places. It must be at the heart of each priest's ministry and the evangelical witness of every religious. It is the key to their personal sense of well-being, happiness, and fulfillment in what they are and what they do. This single-mindedness is also essential to the Christian witness of the Catholic laity, the covenant of love between two people in marriage, and the successful sharing of faith with children require the effort of a lifetime. If couples cease believing in their marriage as a sacrament before God, or treat religion as anything less than a matter of salvation, then the Christian witness they might have given to the world is lost. Those who are unmarried must also be steadfast in fulfilling their duties in life if they are to bring Christ to the world in which they live. In him who is the source of my strength, I have strength for everything. These words of the great missionary St. Paul remind us that our strength is not our own. Even in the martyrs and saints, as the liturgy reminds us, it is God's power shining through our human weakness. It is the strength that inspired Father Serra's motto. Always forward, never back. It is the strength that one senses in this place of prayer, so filled with His presence. It is the strength that can make each one of us, dear brothers and sisters, missionaries of Jesus Christ, witnesses of His message, doers of His will.
Now the Pope is expected. Well, he's doing something I didn't expect. Let's see what happens here.
Taught by our Savior's command and formed by the Word of God, we pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
The Pope, having finished his talk, is now leading everyone there in praying together the Lord's Prayer, the prayer that Jesus taught his followers, the prayer that Father Serra taught to the Indians at the Carmel Mission.
But deliver us from evil. Amen. The Lord be with you. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Our help
The Pope will now bless
in
the
the name of the
congregation.
Lord. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
From this point, the Pope is expected to leave the main church, walking slowly as you see, and on the way out, let's see what happens again now.
The congregation is singing "The Church is One Foundation." It's a somewhat ecumenical hymn, asking all to join together in the faith of Jesus Christ, upon whom the church is founded.
The words were written by Samuel Wesley, the brother of John Wesley, a great religious evangelizer of the eastern part of the United States, while Father Sarah was working in the West.
Statement he made on
It's just a
Father
short
Sarah.
distance from where I believe he is now to the courtyard, which is the next, let's call it public and official stop. And the people, I can hear them behind me on the outside of the courtyard, are getting ready to receive the Pope. But before he goes there, he is to stop at a shrine to the Virgin Mary and say a short prayer. That is a shrine containing a Madonna called Our Lady of Bethlehem, which actually, as the story goes, was brought to this mission by Father Sarah from Mexico. And the Pope is to stop there just for a brief moment and say a prayer.
Might be fitting here to mention that we were talking about the third millennium and how the Pope keeps referring to that. He's declared this for Catholics a special Marian year, just as Mary was born and prepared to give birth to Christ, so we are preparing to give birth to Christ, to welcome Christ as we go into the third millennium. So this is a time when we as Catholics are focusing on her role as a disciple and one who carries Christ to the world.
From here, after this short stop, he is going to go to the courtyard, which you see now. There are in the courtyard a number of severely disabled people, many of them children, perhaps most of them children, and a number of school children. The plan is for the Pope to go to the disabled children and touch or talk to, some way communicate with each one of them, as we've seen him do in other places, to perhaps mingle with the school children and with others there. If he does that, that would probably be extemporaneous, that is a spontaneous affair. And then after that is completed, he is to mount a platform, which we should be seeing in just a moment, and give a short talk. It's unclear whether he's going to entertain questions. It's unclear to me what the talk is going to be about. But as you know, in other cities, he's paid special attention to the youth, special attention to handicapped, and it'd be interesting to hear what he has to say here.
Sometimes church officials who are trying to hasten the Pope's visit keep the handicapped and the children out of the way because the Pope finds them irresistible. He can't keep away from them. He gets distracted to them.
Indeed, I was told, I'm not sure this is the case, but I was told that there were to be many more disabled here. But it was thought that since the Pope feels compelled to get so close to each one of them, if there were many more, that it would put his schedule very far behind.
Probably would.
I think he's about to address us from the platform.
Very nice, very nice. Did you hear what I have said in the church? I thank you for your presence here, and I greet all of you, and I bless every one of you and all your community, your families, you, young people, children gathered above, and the sick in the first line. God bless you. I am blessing you all together in the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Thank you very much.
Now, the plan may have been changed. I'm not sure whether the program here will be cut short. No, apparently not. Apparently, he just reversed the order which it was explained earlier. He could do that.
The Pope is doing what Jesus did. He's laying hands on people.
It's difficult for me to see from here. I cannot tell you whether these are the school children or the handicapped, the disabled.
These are the handicapped. The gesture, when performed by Jesus, was a healing gesture for forgiveness of sins or for actual physical or spiritual healing. And so it's one of the most ancient and genuine human gestures the Church still uses in the sacraments of confession and of the anointing of the sick.
As Father Elward said, the Pope has a special fondness for those who are ill. I've seen at times in masses in Rome where he will spend a great deal of time or at audiences visiting with the sick. And of course, in his own life, he had suffering, his own recent attempt on his life, and he reflected on that and how dependent we are in our weakness on the prayers of others. I think he's very sensitive to, above all, to those who are confined or ill in any way. And we will be seeing that, of course, in a very vivid way when he visits people at Mission Dolores later today.
He has an ear for anybody who wants to talk to him, it seems, doesn't it?
What are the sorts of things that a person in that position at that moment with the Pope is likely to say? I mean, we can all imagine what we might say, but is there a typical request, a typical communication?
Thanks. A lot of people thank him for coming there and talking to them. Maybe some even ask him to lay his hands on them if they're in the hope of a cure.
And I would suspect that the Pope would ask them to pray for him and for the Church. He's very, very aware of how, above all, people who are sick or handicapped can often feel that they're useless, and that's one of the problems in our society. And he's aware that they can do a great deal through their prayers and through their suffering, so he really wants them to be involved in the life of the Church.
What an amazing stamina to seem alert after all he's been through this morning, riding on a plane, a helicopter, shaking hands.
Introducing the UPS Next Day Air Pack. It's made of 100-micron waterproof, tear-proof polyolefin, just like our competition's. It has a hot melt adhesive flap with peel-off release, just like our competition's. The only difference is most of our competition charges twice as much. Either they're paying way too much for their envelopes, or you're paying way too much for their service. UPS, we run the tightest ship in the shipping business.
Lead me away, show me a smile, light up my face.
Come, let TWA bring you closer to the face of Europe with exceptional fares, hotels for as little as $15 a night, and a car for a week free. Who could resist?
Leading the way, TWA.
From molten steel and a fiery imagination, Nissan forges the most important truck advance in 25 years, the hard bodies. A new line of fuel-injected trucks with the most power of any leading standard compact. Or choose the only 3-liter V6 available in the class. Here's Nissan's widest track, biggest cargo box, and roomiest cab ever. The name is Nissan.
Some time ago, we here at Newscenter 4 reported a story on toxic pollution in the Kesterson Reservoir. Cable News Network rushed over and picked up the story from us. The next day, KCRA in Sacramento rushed over and picked up the story from them. Later, KGO rushed over and picked up the story from KCRA and went on their air with our story. You can get our story straight from us, or once they get our story straight, you can get it from them. Newscenter 4 at 5, 6, and 11.
Where we belong, where the eagles cry on the mountain high. The lifters up where we belong, far from the world we know, up where the clear winds blow.
Later tonight, it's the best of Carson as Johnny welcomes Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, and Tom Dreesen. Then on Late Night with David Letterman, David laughs it up with Billy Crystal, Gene Hackman, and Annie Golden.
I'm Tom Brokaw in Buenos Aires. The trials and the triumphs of South America. Reports all this week on NBC Nightly News.
All we have is here and now. All our is long. There are mountains in our way, but we climb a step every day. The lifters are where we belong, far from the world we know, where the clear winds blow. Time goes by, no time to cry. Last you and I alive today. The lifters are where we belong, where the eagles cry.
Sunday, it's Chris Christopherson and Johnny Cash as America's most famous outlaws in the last days of Frank and Jesse James.
Everyone wants to get robbed by Jesse James.
Tomorrow morning on Today from Rio's Copacabana Beach, we'll show you some bathing suits they call dental floss.
Also, the women's movement versus machismo.
Join us tomorrow morning on Today.
Newscenter 4 is next. Tonight, Tylenol is pulled from store shelves after a woman dies of cyanide poisoning. And police make a quick arrest after a suspicious fire threatened a San Francisco museum.
A hotel fire in Japan kills dozens. Protesters hit the street over the unresolved Philippine election. Frank Zappa takes on the foes of rock and roll in the state capitol. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Paymar.
And I'm Sylvia Chase. We'll have those stories, plus a little store in Chinatown cashes in on the supply side of the state lottery. It's all next on Update.
A clogged fuel injector can make your car slow, sluggish, unresponsive. But only 2 tankfuls of advanced formula Mobile Super Unleaded can actually start to unclog fuel injectors. To give your car a new injection of power. Mobile Super Unleaded, high octane, with a plus.
Telesis. The dictionary defines it as progress intelligently planned. This is a story of telesis. I got to San Francisco in '34 to work on the Gate Bridge and could see right away those engineers were talking about a span longer than sane men would dream of. It was then that the earthquake stories began to take on new meaning. We found out what we were made of up there. And there wasn't one man who finished that job 4 years later that didn't feel he'd built something most other men couldn't. Pacific Telesis salutes the special kind of progress that results when those who can see the future also have the courage and skill to take us there. The Pacific Telesis group of companies is committed to progress intelligently planned. That's why Telesis is an important part of our name.
Come on. Where can you get chicken that tastes as great as this looks?
Kentucky Fried Chicken, we do chicken right.
Right.
Sylvia Chase, Jim Paymar, Mark Thompson Weather, Tom Niddle Sports, Wayne Shannon with commentary. And now from the West's most honored newsroom, the News Center for Northern California, this is News Center 4 Update.
Good evening. Tonight, the painkiller extra strength Tylenol being pulled off store shelves in 26 states. The recall comes after a 23-year-old New York woman died from 2 Tylenol capsules laced with cyanide. 3 other capsules in the bottle also contain cyanide. In the Bay Area, no stores have recalled Tylenol, but stores in Southern California have. New York police called in the FBI after making the Tylenol cyanide connection.
When someone expires at a young age without any reason, we send any medication that was ingested by that individual together with the body to the medical examiner's office. The medical examiner's office turned up the cyanide.
New York investigators believe the tainted tablets were bought at an A&P store in West